chapter, some application of trigonometry, we are going to do another module, and this module is going to cover angle of elevation and angle of depression. Let's understand this, and it's going to be very interesting. And for this we have our friend Raj, who is going to help us, because he is going to help us to learn all the 4 terms, right? We have already learned line of sight, now we are going to learn angle of elevation. So here we have Raj, right? Now understand, the moment you have an observer, there's a straight line passing through his eye, and which is parallel to the ground. This line which passes through the eye of the observer and is parallel to the ground, that line is called as horizontal line. So understand, every time there's an observer, there has to be a horizontal line. Understand, right? Now Raj is going to observe something. Observe. See, Raj is observing the top of the tree. So now here in this case, Raj becomes the observer and top of the tree becomes the object. So we know the moment an observer looks at an object, that line is called as, yes, it is called as line of sight, right? And is there an angle made between the line of sight and the horizontal line? Yes, there is an angle, and this angle is called as angle of elevation. So students, you understood what is angle of elevation? Yes, it is an angle made by the line of sight with the horizontal line when the observer is looking above the horizontal line, right? Wasn't that easy? Simple, right? Beautiful. Now we move ahead. Let's see another concept now. And we are going to learn what is angle of depression, right? Observe. Again, we have our friend Raj, who is going to help us now. So here we have Raj. The moment you have an observer, what is the first thing we need to have? Yes, we need to have an horizontal line which is parallel to the ground, right? Now Raj is observing something. What is he observing? He is observing the beautiful flowers on the ground there, right? So when he is observing the flowers on the ground, now Raj becomes the observer and those flowers become the object. So obviously the line connecting them is called as line of sight. Again, the next question is there an angle formed between the line of sight and the horizontal line? Yes, there is an angle, and this angle is called as angle of depression. So students, angle of depression is formed by the line of sight with the horizontal line when the observer is seeing below the horizontal line. So wasn't that easy? Simple, right? So we have understood what is a horizontal line, we have understood what is angle of elevation, we have also understood what is angle of depression. Now let's revise all those 4 terms together. Let's do that now. So again, we are going to have our friend Raj, right? Observer, right? The moment you have an observer, the first thing is horizontal line parallel to the ground. Yes. Now, yes, there's a beautiful bird, and that's an eagle flying in. And Raj is observing that eagle in the sky. So obviously Raj is the observer and that eagle is the object. So the line connecting them is the line of sight. And the angle which is formed here is angle of elevation. And you know why it is angle of elevation? Because here that line of sight is above the horizontal line, right? Yes. Now the next concept which we had learned. Again, Raj is observing the flower on the ground. When he is observing that flower on the ground, now Raj becomes the observer and that flower becomes the object. So the straight line connecting them is nothing but it is line of sight. And this angle which is formed here by this line of sight with that horizontal line is nothing but it is angle of depression. And we know angle of depression is formed when the observer is seeing below the horizontal line. So students, we have understood what is line of sight, what is horizontal line, angle of elevation and angle of depression. So these are the 4 terms which we require to solve sums based on application of trigonometry. But students, there are a few more things which I want you to remember when you are doing sums. Points to be remembered while drawing the figures to solve the sum. So when you are given sums based on application of trigonometry, you have to draw the figure. For that, there are certain things which you need to remember, right? The very first thing is all the heights of the objects such as towers, trees, buildings, etc. shall be considered as a line segment perpendicular to the ground. I'll make it very clear. Let's understand. So if we consider the height of a tower, this height of a tower, when we are considering, this tower will be considered as a line segment which is perpendicular to the ground. Similarly, when we consider the height of a tree, we consider that height of the tree, that will be considered a line segment which is perpendicular to the ground. Understand that. So similarly, when we consider the height of a building, it will be considered as a line segment which is perpendicular to the ground. So this is what we need to remember, right? The next thing is the height of the observer is neglected if it is not given in the problem. It shall be considered as a point. Now understand, in any sum, when we have an observer there is a mention of an observer, but the height of the observer is not given, right? So if the height of the observer is not given, in that case, the person is considered as a point on the ground, right? And in that case, remember, if it is a point on the ground, that means the ground itself would be the horizontal line. Now this is what I want you to remember. This is a very crucial point. Remember these things when we are going to draw figure, and the sums are going to be very easy, right?